The latest Marquette Law School poll reveals a governor's race tied and a Senate race that's narrowed over the past few months.
We talked to the poll's director earlier this week about those results. And we are joined by the director of the Marquette Law School Poll, Professor Charles Franklin. Charles, great to have you here.
Thanks.
I know it's been another busy stretch for you. This is your final poll before Election Day, of course, and boy, it's as tight as ever.
It is. It's tightened in both races. One of the things we've seen with the governor's race is it's always been tight, and there's been relatively little variation, but it's gone from a 4-point Evers lead to a 3-point to a 1-point to now a dead tie. It's really similar to 2018, 4 years ago, where there Scott Walker had a small lead early that tightened, and that poll too was tied in the last poll. Evers, of course, won by 1.1 percentage points. So very similar that way. Voters have made up their mind. They've gotten energized. In the Senate race, we've seen the race tighten there from a 6-point Johnson lead to just a 2-point lead. The margin of error is 5 points, so that all of these are basically obviously inside. Yeah. Yes, toss-ups is really the right description for both races.
What do you think has kind of made that tighten, though, in these last month? Is it the ads? Is it people are really starting to figure out what they want to do on Election Day?
I think, first of all, it is that Mandela Barnes especially benefited from the primary and the way Democrats dropped out of the race, and it basically gave him the nomination. That was a bump for him that then dissipated as the general election campaign came into play. With Tony Evers, though, in the governor's race, you have an incumbent governor who's well known, and so there's been less learning in that race, though Tim Michels, as the challenger, has had to introduce himself. So I think the advertising has had effects. The negative side of all four candidates' images have gone up a bit during the fall campaign, but they've gone up primarily for the challengers, for Barnes and for Michels, whereas the two incumbents, Evers and Johnson, have not changed very much. So a lot of people have been introduced to the two challengers, but mostly they've taken away negative impressions rather than positive ones.
And the party affiliation, people have really they're bonding close to their party and their candidate right now as well.
We've been talking about Wisconsin's party polarization for more than a decade now, but we're really seeing that come to its full flower this year. Over 95% of partisans are voting with their party's nominees, and that has fluctuated a little bit, but it's remained high through the fall. Voter turnout looks like it will also be at or close to the record turnout of 2018, which was a phenomenally high turnout for a midterm. And I think voters have largely seen such large differences between the candidates that they found it relatively easy to solidify their support.
Turnout, what are some of the areas you're really going to be watching statewide on Election night?
There's always Dane and Milwaukee counties, big Democratic bastions, big vote turnout in those two places, but especially Milwaukee fluctuates more in midterms compared to presidential years. So do we see a high turnout there like we saw in 2018 here in Madison? Turnout, or Dane County broadly, turnout has been rising and the Democratic advantage has been growing at the same time. Does that hold up? I'd look at the Fox Valley around Green Bay and south of there. That's an area where the cities have been voting Democratic, but the countryside has been solidly Republican. Where does the balance fall? Evers did pretty well there in 2018, but Tammy Baldwin actually won those counties in 2018. Where does that fall? And then finally, the Great Northwest is about 24% of votes, and it's awfully red. How big is the turnout there? And do Trump voters turn out with Trump not on the ballot?
They have some important state legislature races up in that well. It could drive the vote there. How about the independents? You still feel like they're going to have a huge role in this, right?
Yes, in the sense that they hold the balance of power. About 41% say they think of themselves as independents. Now, some lean to one party or another, but that group is the group that we've seen shift from from leaning towards the Democratic candidates in August to coming back to more even splits in September, and in the Senate race leaning Republican now, in the governor's race pretty evenly balanced. But where we've seen shifts come, it's been with that group, while the partisans have mostly been so tightly aligned with their party.
Well, Charles, always great to talk to you. Always great to get your insight. 22 is done for you.
Yes.
Are you ready to look to 24 already? Just
yeah, let's wait until December, all right?
A little break for you, Charles. Thank you as always. Charles Franklin, Director of the Marquette Law School Poll. Thank you as always.
Thank you.